Hi, everybody. Today is Monday, March 17th, 2025, and our friend Larry Johnson is back with us. Welcome back, Larry.
Hey, I'm not in Moscow, so
Florida.
yeah, Florida.
Larry, how do you see the situation right now with Houthis, with Yemenis, with the new attitude of the Trump administration? What do they want to do with Yemenis, in your opinion?
I think the Yemenis are just a pawn for the Trump team, who's trying to start a war with Iran. Um, this attack on Yemen was completely unjustified. The Houthis had just been making threats to Israel if they didn't follow through on the ceasefire and allow humanitarian aid into the Palestinians, the people of Gaza, that then they would renew the attacks and shut down the Red Sea. They've honored the ceasefire agreement. They had not engaged in any other attacks, and here the United States on its own decides to launch bombing runs. And in the course of it, they've killed. I've heard at least 13 people. There are others have suggested as upwards of 100. But the United States murdered children, and that's exactly what it's murder. This is not incidental casualties. This is innocent blood that the United States has shed, and it really it sickens me to see it. And so now Yemen's going to strike back. Reportedly, they've fired missiles. Two straight days at the USS Harry S. Truman, the aircraft carrier. Yeah. So I've seen no independent confirmation of that. You've not seen the U.S. Department of Defense come out and confirm it. Of course, they haven't denied it either. So yeah, I just don't know. We're not seeing any video images, nor are we likely to. But I'm sure that Yemen will respond and will retaliate if they haven't already.
Larry, here is what Rubio said in terms of the conflict with Yemenis, with Houthis.
These people controlling which ships can go through and which ones cannot. And so your question is, how long will this go on? It will go on until they no longer have the capability to do that.
Yeah. It seems to me the same sort of attitude on the part of the war in Ukraine, that we're going to fight Russia until they don't have any.
To the bitter end. Yeah, we're with it to the end. Oh, guess what? The end is here. The Trump administration is laboring under the false assumption or belief that the Biden administration didn't launch any kind of serious attacks on Yemen. That the Biden administration was just using pinpricks and just, show they were for all show, no substance. So that's nonsense. They kept trying to knock out the Houthi capability and found out it was too difficult to do. These are mobile missile launchers. It'd be one thing if Yemen had fixed military bases and with these, installed missile launchers and silos. Yeah, the United States could probably take those out. But that's not what Yemen has, and they're moving them around. And in a lot of cases, the United States has been, bombing decoys. And in the course of this, I looked at Perplexity AI. They say that the Houthis have shot down 30 MQ-9 Predator drones. Well, each one of those goes for at least $30 million a pop. So you were talking their minimum $390 million worth of U.S. technology shot down. Others have said that it's a much higher number, 15 to 18. Well, if it's 15, that's closing in on a $500 million. So the Houthis have been having some effect in punching back at the United States. But all of this is it's a distraction. This is the United States is doing this as a pretext to create justification for a military strike on Iran. It really appears to be that way, based upon listening to the comments of Rubio, Michael Waltz, Trump. This is not just about opening the Red Sea to freedom of navigation. It's beyond that. They're blaming this as the Iranian-backed Houthis, and that they're insisting that Iran supplied all these missiles. Maybe they did. I don't have any information one way or the other to dispute that or corroborate that. But the United States, the language that was released by the White House, and then you had a subsequent release on Friday. Well, before the bombing on Friday, you had the Institute for the Study of War put out this thing about Iran's building a nuclear weapon. This has been a neocon wet dream for years. They've been trying to go to war with Iran for at least the last 30 years. I think now they're going to do it. And if Trump falls into this trap, God, he didn't learn a damn thing from his first administration and the subsequent attacks on him. He had a real chance to be a genuine peace president, to bring peace to Ukraine, to bring peace to Gaza. But instead, man, he's fully in the pocket of the Zionist lobby. They got him bought and paid for. He's not an independent thinker on this at all. And the Zionists they start playing the accordion, and he starts dancing like a monkey. That's all. Trump is behaving like an organ grinder monkey. Is the best. I'm sad to say.
The war with Iran, Larry, by the way, has a broader issue. It's not just about the United States and Iran. You can consider all the Arab states together with Israel. You can see the waterways of Bab el-Mandab, and as we see the Red Sea that Houthis are controlling, and Hormuz in Iran.
Right.
They're close to Iran. How is Donald Trump prepared to do that? Is Donald Trump, because the way that he's fighting with Canada, Mexico, Europe,
Greenland, Europe,
Greenland, Panama, and sending troops to Panama. Right now, they wants to fight Iran and Houthis. What is the economy that he was talking about?
Yeah, no, he's people are looking for stability, predictability, peace, and I mean he's lost his damn mind. It's this chest thumping, bombast, threatening. That's always been a part of him, but he kept insisting, campaigning on the concept that he was going to be Mr. Peace. Well, he's not, and it's going to provoke violence in Panama. The United States has no business controlling the Panama Canal. It hasn't been an issue. They blame the Chinese. The Chinese were running the place the entire time that Trump was president, from 2017 to 2020, for God's sake. And Trump isn't paying attention to the fact that Iran, right now, I think we're coming up to the conclusion of the annual joint naval military exercise that Iran has with Russia and China. Now, it's interesting. You go on, you search the internet and say, this is the fifth time they've run this exercise. Okay, here we are in 2025. So go with me. The first exercise was 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. Okay, Nima, math quiz. How many is that?
Yeah.
Is that 5?
Yeah.
No, that's 7. They've been doing this, they've had 7 exercises now. And so what the concept of doing those joint exercises means there are contingency plans in place for China and Russia to come to Iran's aid militarily in the event of an unprovoked attack. And I think that's actually where we're headed. That, reportedly some of these jets that hit targets in Yemen came out of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar. If that's true, then you can anticipate that Yemen may start firing back at those countries. Al Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar is a big fat target. Wouldn't be surprised to see that hit. But if Washington labors under, in my view, the false belief that Iran is weak and can't protect itself, and that the United States is the strongest military in the world, and we can do whatever we want, and we'll just really hurt them. I anticipate that if the United States is foolish enough to try to launch attacks into Iran, just as Israel did on October 27th, I believe it was, that you may wind up seeing some U.S. aircraft shot down inside Iran. And then all of a sudden you got U.S. pilots being held as prisoners of war. This is getting potentially very dangerous again. We had sort of an opening for peace. Now, Trump did reportedly send a letter to President Pezeshkian offering to initiate talks. And the Iranians have said that they're considering the offer, but against this offer, they're getting these threats. So Iran has suffered as a result of the sanctions, but I don't see Iran caving and cowering in fear before this. I think they're preparing to fight back if necessary.
It seems that many people do not understand that these Arab states, when it comes to fighting Houthis, they don't have any sort of power to fight Houthis.
Right.
They don't have the capability to fight Houthis. We've been seeing this being proven to us. They have been fighting Houthis. That's why Houthis are feeling so similar to the people. They feel so sympathetic to the people of Gaza because they have been suffering the same sort of attacks. And what's so amazing, Larry, by the way, that in the mainstream media, when it comes to the main reason of Houthis doing this, attacking in Israeli ships, they don't mention the main reason of that.
Right.
They don't.
Yeah.
Here is what Hexet said, Larry. Here is what Hexet said.
Campaign is about freedom of navigation and restoring deterrence. The minute the Houthis say, we'll stop shooting at your ships, we'll stop shooting at your drones, this campaign will end. But until then, it will be unrelenting. We got the reports last night, Maria. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message. And the message is clear to Iran as well. And the president said it in his truth. Your support of the Houthis needs to end immediately. We will hold you accountable as the sponsor of this proxy. And I echo his statement. We will not be nice about it. This is not the Biden administration. The message is clear. We will come after the Houthis until they stop shooting at our ships, and the Iranians better stay out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, that clip right there illustrates that Pete Hegseth is completely unqualified to be Secretary of Defense. He is an intellectual lightweight. He's giving you the comic book version. Instead of acknowledging and saying, look, we understand that the Houthis started this as a way to bring pressure on Israel to stop the genocide against the Palestinian people. That's why they're doing it. And instead of him truthfully acknowledging that since the ceasefire that both Hamas and the Zionists accepted, that the Houthis had not carried out any further strikes, and they hadn't carried out any further threats against shipping. So this was, if anything, an unprovoked attack by the United States. It was an act of war by the United States, completely unjustified. Now, instead of acknowledging that, there was a way to actually stop the harassment of Israeli shipping, which was for the United States to use its power and influence to compel Israel to stop the murder of Palestinians, to respect the boundaries of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, and to stop allowing settlers to, rob the Palestinian people of their land. But instead, the United States is enabling all of that. And so this conflict was going to continue, and more people are going to die. But to the credit of the Houthis, they're the only country in that region standing up and actually doing something to try to support the Palestinian people. Everybody else, particularly Erdogan of Turkey, good God, what a fraud he is.
Larry, here is what Witkoff said in terms of the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza.
Israel is a non-starter, Jake. I spent, along with Senior Policy Director Eric Traeger from Mike Waltz's office, I spent close to 7.5 hours at the Arab Summit. We had really positive conversation there. I would describe it as game-changing, but for Hamas's response. So we spent a good deal of time talking about a bridge proposal that would see the release of 5 live hostages that included Idan Alexander, and also, by the way, see the release of a substantial amount of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails, which would be a wonderful thing for these Palestinian families. And I thought the proposal was compelling. The Israelis were informed about it and advised about it beforehand. And after waiting for 2 or 3 days from Hamas, which is their usual mode, we got an unacceptable response. I'm not going to go into the specific details of what made it unacceptable, but it was totally unacceptable. I think there's an opportunity for them, but the opportunity is closing fast. What happened with the Houthis yesterday, what happened with our strike, ought to inform as to where we stand with regard to terrorism and our tolerance level for terrorist actions. And I would encourage Hamas to get much more sensible than how they have been.
Do you understand what he's talking about?
No, we're the terrorists. I mean, this is what's so ridiculous about this. People like Witkoff and others. They keep accusing Hamas of terrorism. Hamas is not killing Israeli civilians. The only one killing civilians is Israel and the United States. In our bombing of Yemen the other day, we killed women and children. Those children weren't launching missiles into the Red Sea. Well, we just chalk it, oh, that's collateral damage. We didn't mean it. I've been watching this bullshit go on for 50 years. I mean, it's the same nonsense where we portray Israel as the victim. We portray all of the Palestinians and Arabs as the great evil, and then justify using violence against them in ways that we would, if it was used against us, we would condemn and be rightly outraged. So, I think, whatever attempt at playing an honest broker Witkoff had tried, he's abandoned that. And the fact that he's justifying these strikes on Yemen, again, I think this is all pretext, laying a predicate to go after and attack Iran. But again, the situation with Iran has changed in light of the security agreement that Russia signed with Iran on January 17th. And within that, they did a pretty extensive job of laying out how Russia would support Iran's peaceful nuclear program. Well, it's the nuclear program that the United States is using as a justification for carrying out attacks on Iran. This, this has the potential to fall apart and get extremely messy. And because what's going to happen is, let me give one possible scenario that the Houthis will succeed in sinking one ship. And man, if it's an aircraft carrier, boy, that'll be a blow. Well, Trump's then going to have egg all over his face, all of his chest thumping and threats. He'll be attacked so he's got to show strength. Well, how do you show strength? Well, show strength by conducting more military operations. So then they will attack Iran. Well, then Iran's going to turn around and attack the U.S. military bases in Qatar, for starts, take out Al Udeid and the several military outposts in Syria. And then this escalates. And and in all of this, Russia and China are going to definitely have a say, because they're watching that the United States is looking always for an opportunity to attack them. This notion that the United States can impose its will on every other country and that we can do whatever the hell we want. We're behaving like an out of control serial rapist, in my view. And I know those are harsh terms. And people accuse me of being un-American. My ancestors, I got 400 years worth of family history here in the United States. We fought for liberty. We fought for freedom. We didn't fight to go out and be the number one terrorist in the world, which we have become. In terms of, what's the measure? How many civilians have we killed for political purposes? That's the definition of terrorism.
It seems that Rubio had a phone call with Sergei Lavrov, in that call, Lavrov just asked him to immediately stop attacking Houthis. What do we know about the policies of Russia and China together? We know that they had a meeting between among Iran, Russia, and China on Iranian nuclear program.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they want to do what is the official policy of Russia and China in terms of the conflict?
Well, they're trying to give Iran an alternative economic highway, I guess I would call it, so that they are not limited to having to work with the West, and not to give them some escape from the sanctions. I think Russia calculated, and it may be a mistaken calculation, that if they could enter into this agreement with Iran and specify specifically what they're going to do in the nuclear field, that would suffice to persuade Washington that Iran's not developing a nuclear weapon, because Russia's not going to facilitate or enable that. Russia's been very responsible about trying to halt the spread of nuclear weapons and nuclear technology. And to that end as well, China was weighing in to be supportive of that. The United States appears is rejecting that all. So, by rejecting it, they're not accepting the reality that Iran's not working on a nuclear weapon. They're using the specious claim that Iran is working on a nuclear weapon to, again, lay a predicate to justify the attack on Iran that is coming. After listening to Waltz and Rubio yesterday, I'm more convinced than ever that is exactly what's going to happen. And you know what? I think the United States is going to wind up with a bloody nose. We're picking a fight. We think we're picking a fight with a smaller, weaker opponent. And then that smaller, weaker opponent ends up punching us back and breaking our nose. all of a sudden it's not the fight we thought it would be.
It seems that they're doing everything to be less dependent on the countries who are influenced by the United States. I don't know if you heard that China they have a new route, Belt and Road Initiative, that comes to Afghanistan, then Iran, and instead of going the other way.
Yeah. No, look, the United States, we want to destroy China. You know, I can clean it up, and we want to oppose China's attempt to assert dominance. You know, no, we want to destroy it. We've made the decision that only we, the United States, are entitled to lead the world, and nobody else can do it. We get to be in charge. That's the reality. Now, I don't want to sit here and pretend that, you know, China is some sort of utopian paradise, and that everything they do is fine. No, they've got, I've talked, I think, before, China's role in the fentanyl, China's role in subverting trade practices, China's role in doing the straw purchase of luxury automobiles. But these are things that we can also come down with a list of bad things the United States has done. The overall objective, in my view, ought to be to say, hey, how can we have all these armed, dangerous countries live together peacefully without threatening to kill each other? Let's, to echo Rodney King's plea, can't we all just get along? And part of it is the United States needs to learn to mind its own damn business. We always are busy accusing other countries of meddling in our affairs, and by God, we're the biggest meddler out there. That could almost be a character in a Batman movie. You had the Riddler, the Joker, and the meddler. And the meddler would be the most dangerous villain of all, going around and creating mayhem. So, China is charting its own course, and they're doing it economically. The United States is desperately doing everything it can to try to block China. But again, China in this case, I think holds a lot of leverage. Just on the example of antimony. Antimony is a rare earth mineral needed, absolutely essential in the production of artillery shells. China has now cut off all supplies, and Russia has, to the west. Well, Russia and China, my understanding is, they control 90% of the world production of antimony. So here's the United States picking a beef with China and Russia, and both countries hold rare earth minerals that we absolutely need in order to produce a lot of our military technology. So this is, the United States is laboring under this mythology that we're the essential nation and we can demand and control what other countries do. And China is not playing along.
It seems that Donald Trump tomorrow is going to talk with Vladimir Putin. And how do you see the situation with Putin? Is he understanding what Putin was talking about in terms of there are nuances?
Nuances, yes. Yeah, at least you understood the joke. No, I don't think Trump is not thinking about this, I think, in a comprehensive, strategic way. I'd held out hope that he was, but I don't think that's the case. I think he's viewing every separate issue as a isolated transaction. So, I'm sure he's going to be friendly with Putin, despite all of his public posturing about I'm the big tough guy. When he gets into those conversations, he's more acquiescent, less combative, and he's going to try. he wants to be liked by Putin. That's the bottom line. He wants to be liked. And he's going to look for ways to try to find agreement with Putin. But Putin's going to be very polite but direct and look, Mr. President, our conditions have been laid out. They were presented in June of 2024. They're very clear. We're not really stepping back away from that. Trump over the weekend had put out a plea to don't kill all those Ukrainians you got encircled in Kursk. And Putin responded, okay, if they surrender, yeah, we'll not kill them. However, for them to surrender, there's going to have to be an order from Kiev to say, hey, soldiers, surrender, give up. Well, that hasn't happened. And Putin gave a deadline of 6 a.m. Today, Monday morning. Well, 6 a.m. in Russia and Moscow time, it was 11 p.m. East Coast time last night. So, here we are 12 hours later, because now it's 6 p.m. In Moscow. And I suspect the military operation against the remaining forces in Kursk is underway, and they're being taken out.
What's so amazing, Larry, that when it comes to Ukraine, Trump is just bragging about, I was the one who sent javelins to Ukraine.
Yeah, I did that. Those little stickers. I did
he's
that.
Bragging on one side, and on the other hand, it seems that he wants to get closer to Russia. But when you hear Sergei Lavrov talking about the United States, the interest of the United States and Russia, they totally understand what's going on. They know that the United States under Donald Trump would not be any better than what it was under the Biden administration. But Trump is changing. At least Trump is talking to them. This is important for them.
Well, look, Lavrov lived in the United States when he was at the United Nations and attached to the embassy. So he understands America. He speaks English. And that's part of the problem. We've got too many American politicians, foreign policy people that don't speak Russian and that haven't lived or had any kind of practical on-the-ground experience in Russia. And instead they operate out of a ideological construct that was really based in the Cold War. And even as you go back and start looking at it, even a lot of our assumptions about the Soviet Union and people like Stalin are predicated on what I would call myths of World War II. Example, we always refer to international communism, this goal to go out and establish complete communist control of the world. And that was always associated with Stalin, while ignoring the fact that Stalin, in his civil war with Trotsky, it was Trotsky who was the one advocating for international communist revolutions around the world. And it was Stalin who was saying, no, we're going to keep this at home here in the Soviet Union. So, even on something as simple as that, there's widespread ignorance in the part of the West. Well, and I just bring that up as an illustration of helping to understand that, at least puts us in a position where we can more accurately deal with one another. And that's part of what's lacking here. They were, Alistair Crook reports that the word out from the U.S. side of the first meeting in Riyadh with Lavrov and Rubio was that the American side came away going, wow, those guys are really smart. No kidding. Yeah, they're very impressive people, as I can personally report from my exchange with Foreign Minister Lavrov a week ago today.
Here is, Larry, what Mike Waltz said about Ukraine.
are the components of negotiations that have happened before in 2022 and even before then. This is going to be some type of territory for future security guarantees, the future status of Ukraine. We've talked about, as Secretary of Defense has said at the NATO Defense Ministerial, that a pathway, a permanent pathway into NATO or permanent membership into NATO for Ukraine is incredibly unlikely. And that's not just from the United States. That's from
we're just running out of time here.
That's from a number of other countries as well. So those are all the components, Martha. We know the components. There is a deal that will be had here, and we are talking to both sides to figure out how we can get both sides to the table and shuttle diplomacy and stop the killing and stop this war.
Yeah. Laurie, when he was talking about the security guarantee to Ukraine, and we know that the British government is doing everything to send their troops to Ukraine. I don't know, peacekeepers, and there is no peace that they want to give it. And how do you see that the Trump's policy, the Trump administration's policy, when it comes to the security guarantee to Ukraine?
Well, I don't think there is any security guarantee that can be given to Ukraine by the United States. What Ukraine would want is the United States to pledge that if Russia attacks you, we will attack Russia. That ain't happening. Okay, that's not even on the table. Really, I think a lot of these negotiations are going to be overtaken by events on the battlefield. Russia is now, it looks like, launched a comprehensive offensive. They started moving in Zaporizhia, which is the extreme southern end of the line of contact. Remember, this thing is a 2,000-kilometer long line of contact. For people in the United States, that's like the distance from Washington, D.C. Good Lord. Actually, from, say, New York City to Miami, Florida. It's a long ways. And so imagine all the military force to recover that kind of distance. Russia is pursuing its own interests now. Vladimir Putin has been very clear about he's talking about Novorossiya, the new Russia, which is actually a historical concept that encompasses the left bank of the Dnieper, which is essentially the western bank of the Dnieper, all the way down to the full coast of what is now Ukraine on the Black Sea. That will be part of Russia. That's what I think Russia is going to take. They're not going to make concessions at this point to give up territory that they've already taken. Not at all. Why should they? They're not losing. They're not suffering a million, KIA like Ukraine is, and they're not. Russia's able to actually produce all the weapons it needs in order to carry out the battle. Yeah, it's created some inflation. It's created some economic disruptions, but those are not catastrophic or severe. So, this Ukraine's ability to sustain this fight and continue is it's eroding with each passing day, and it's going to reach a critical point. I'm surprised to see Zelensky still in office, and there are growing rumblings that he's going to be removed. We'll see. But
Zelensky is asking for more money from the United States.
Yeah, there's a shock. Hell, really? Yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah. While he says, if you want us to think of the ceasefire, you send more money to us, and
he's got to bulk up that bank account for his retirement escape. Yeah, no, like I said, he's not a serious person. He's an actor paid to play a role, and he's sort of forgotten that. But Russia is sincere about getting a dialogue going and sustaining the dialogue with the United States. But that dialogue doesn't mean that Russia's going to surrender security concerns. Good Lord, I would hope not. People accuse me of being un-American, but I simply note that I wouldn't trust the United States. I wouldn't trust a damn word that Donald Trump says. Don't give me promises. Let's see your actions. You say you want to stop the war? Then stop sending weapons and intelligence to Ukraine. You're serious about stopping the war? Then you stop. But if you say, oh yeah, we want to stop the war, and then meanwhile you're passing out more money, more weapons, and more intelligence used to target and kill Russians, Russia has its answer. The United States is not serious. And until such time as the United States gets serious, we're going to continue our military operations until we destroy the Ukrainian military, which is the purpose that Putin set out, and it's becoming increasingly likely that that is within their reach.
As we talk, Germany has announced that they're going to send more weapons and aid to Ukraine. And I don't know if you remember, before these political changes happening in Germany, Russia was hoping, officials in Russia were hoping that they're going to have maybe some sort of change. But it doesn't seem that would be the case with Germany. And
that's the stupidest damn thing that the Germans could do, because it simply feeds into Russia's belief. They have not forgotten World War II, which was they were invaded by the Nazis, the Germans, the German Wehrmacht. Killed 27 million Russians. They have not forgotten. And now Germany wants to again facilitate violence and attacks on Russia. If there'll be a price to pay in Germany. I don't see Russia letting this go at all. It's just these people who are, I guess, ignorant of history or refuse to remember history they'll pay a price for their ignorance. Is the only way I can describe it.
I read a note that it says that the Russophobia was invented by the United Kingdom, by the British government.
It wouldn't surprise me. Not at all surprising.
And right now they're running the show in Europe against Russia, and they want to send more.
Well, running the show. Come on, you're being very generous. You're a charitable guy today. The Brits, they could not organize a 3-car funeral. Okay, and that is if you put 2 cars in line, they'd be sitting there trying to figure out what to do with the 3rd car. Where the front or rear? What kind of car? What color should it be? Should it be a truck? Should it be a sedan? Britain has no power, and it's pretending like it gets to be the conductor of a great orchestra. And all they got is some guy that's blowing on a harmonica. Yeah, you're right that they are talking big that way, but it's all empty.
How do they make the other countries so much obedient to them? It's so amazing to see the leverage.
Most of those countries aren't paying attention to England. I mean,
I'm
French,
talking about the European countries.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The French, the Germans, they're not sitting around like panting dogs waiting to get a treat from England. They look sideways at Starmer, and Macron does his thing, and Merz does his thing. The Poles are like, they're doing their thing. There's no that's the point. There's no unity among the Europeans on this. They're pretending that they're united, but they're not united at all. Everybody's sort of doing their own thing.
Yeah, but they're united in supporting Israel, at least.
Yeah, well, they give lip service to Israel. Fortunately, they're not sending weapons. And well, I'll be interested to see how long the UK, because the UK has fallen, has a significant Muslim population now in the UK that wield quite a bit of political clout. We'll see how long. AIPAC does not enjoy the kind of power that it wields in Washington and London. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of that.
Larry, I don't know if you saw the interview of Donald Trump with CNN. He says that Islam hates us. I don't know why, but they hate us.
Well, he said he's not a big reader, so he hadn't been paying attention.
And Anderson Cooper is not trying to even help him to understand what's going on.
Yeah, they're really, that kind of, reporting on that is a great illustration of America in general. I mean, if you went out on the street, the average American would probably say something very much like that. God, why don't they hate? I guess they hate us because of our freedom. God, they're mad at me, and why? I haven't done anything to them. Without understanding the history of the United States and what it has done throughout the region and enabled, the unjust and uncalled for attack on Iraq, and helping start the war in Syria, among other things, and the war in Afghanistan, and this. Again, it goes back, 60 years. So we refuse to accept and acknowledge our own responsibility for helping create this problem. It's like with Iran. We pretend that, here we were, Uncle Sam, minding our own business, and these Iranians came up and attacked us for nothing. Ignoring the fact that we had overthrown an elected government, inserted our own corporations into Iran to take as much oil as we could. And that then we're surprised that the Iranians are angry at the West for robbing their country. And that's like, somebody has broken into your house, they've taken control of your house, and they're sitting there in the kitchen drinking coffee, and all of a sudden you come in to throw them out, and they're looking at you going, "What's with this guy? I mean, he's acting like this is his house." Well, it is. Oh.
Thank you so much, Larry, for being with us today. Great pleasure, as always.
Always glad to stir the pot with you there, Dima. We'll see you later this week.
See you. Bye-bye. Take care,
Okay.
Larry.
Bye.
Bye-bye.